Welcome everyone and get ready for an exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins because today we are going to talk about one of the most surprising treasures that could be sitting right inside your pocket change or maybe hidden in an old jar in your house, the 1971 D Lincoln 1-cent coin. Which at first glance may look just like an ordinary penny you have seen thousands of times before, but in reality, under the right circumstances, and with the right errors and mistakes, this very coin can be worth up to $400,000, a staggering amount for something so small and so common looking, yet the hidden secrets in its minting process, the missteps in production, and the extremely rare variations are exactly what make it so valuable and highly sought after by collectors, dealers, and investors alike. So buckle up because this story is long, detailed, and packed with information that could make you look at every penny you encounter with a completely new perspective. Now let's begin with some context about the 1971 D penny itself, minted in Denver with the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner, and on the reverse the Lincoln Memorial. This coin was part of the ongoing Lincoln Cent series that had been running since 1909. But while billions of these pennies were produced in 1971, making them common in circulation, not all were created equal, because during mass production even the smallest flaw or misalignment can result in striking errors and die varieties that turn a regular coin into a collector's dream. The Denver Mint alone produced over 2.9 billion pennies that year, which means that most of them are worth only face value. But among them a handful emerged with unusual features such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched mint marks, clipped planchets, and other rare misstrikes that dramatically increase their worth. Let's first talk about one of the most famous and desirable types of errors, the doubled die, where due to a misalignment during the hubbing process the design elements on the coin appear doubled, and in the 1971 D penny some of the most dramatic double die errors can be seen in the lettering on the obverse, such as in the word Liberty, the motto I in God we trust, and the date itself. If you notice clear and distinct doubling of the letters, this is a major signal that you could be holding a jackpot coin. Collectors pay massive premiums for these because they are easy to identify with the naked eye and highly attractive as error specimens. Now another common error on the 1971 D pennies are repunched mint marks, often referred to as RPMs, where the D mint mark was punched into the die more than once, sometimes at slightly different angles or positions, creating a visible doubling or shadow effect around the letter D. These repunched mint mark varieties are extremely popular among specialists, and the more dramatic the repunching, the more valuable the coin. In some cases the D can appear north or south of its original location or even overlapping, creating unique visual effects. Each one of these small mistakes adds rarity and demand. Then we also need to consider die cracks and cuds, which happen when the minting die develops small breaks or chips and transfers these imperfections to the coins it strikes. A cud, for example, appears as a raised blob of metal usually connected to the rim, caused when a piece of the die breaks off completely, and collectors love these because they are a literal fingerprint of the minting process gone wrong, with each cud being unique in size, shape, and placement. Another error type that can raise the value of a 1971 D penny significantly is the off-center strike, where the coin is not struck properly within the collar, and the design ends up shifted to one side, leaving a blank crescent of metal visible. The more dramatic the off-center, the higher the value, with perfectly balanced partial designs sometimes reaching thousands, but when combined with a full visible date and mint mark, the desirability skyrockets. Also, we cannot forget about clipped planchets, where during the punching of blank discs from the metal sheets, sometimes overlapping occurs and the resulting coin ends up missing a portion of the edge. This crescent-shaped clip is a highly collectible error, and if combined with other mistakes such as off-center strikes or doubling, it makes the coin even rarer. Now let's go deeper into why some of these specific 1971 D pennies command values as high as $400,000. It comes down to a combination of rarity, demand, condition, and error severity. The rarest doubled die obverse varieties for this year are extremely scarce in high-grade conditions like mint state red. And when certified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, they can fetch astronomical sums at auctions. Imagine finding a penny that looks just slightly different, but because It is one of perhaps only a handful in the world. It becomes worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is the magic of numismatics. But to get there, you need to carefully inspect your coins under magnification, check for strong doubling, search for dramatic RPMs, examine edges for clips, and check alignment for off-center strikes. Another fascinating aspect about the 1971 D penny is the transitional composition issue. While the official composition at the time was 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing 3.11 grams, any deviation in planchet material or weight could be a major red flag of a rare minting mistake. For example, if a 1971 D penny were accidentally struck on a leftover planchet from a different denomination or metal type, it could become an ultra-rare wrong planchet error, one of the most valuable kinds of mistakes possible. And collectors pay fortunes for such pieces because they are essentially one-of-a-kind mint accidents. Let's also not forget about strike-through errors, where a foreign object like grease, wire, or cloth gets between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving an unusual impression or missing details on the coin. These can range from subtle to dramatic, and collectors love dramatic strike-throughs because they tell a story of exactly what was happening in the mint at that moment. And every one is unique. When evaluating the value of a 1971 D penny with potential errors, you must consider condition as well, because even the rarest variety loses significant value if heavily circulated, scratches, or corroded, whereas mint state coins with full red color are prized the most, especially in grades MS65 and above, and when paired with a rare error the value multiplies exponentially. This is why professional grading is so crucial. Auction houses often list these rare 1971 D double die and RPM pennies with certified grades, and the bidding wars can drive the prices into six figures and beyond. Now think about the possibilities. You could have an old jar of pennies inherited from family. Maybe they have been sitting untouched for decades, and among them could be a 1971 D penny with one of these rare mistakes. Imagine turning a 1-cent coin into a life-changing fortune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. It may sound unbelievable, but examples exist, and collectors across the world dedicate their time searching exactly for these treasures. The thrill of the hunt is what keeps the hobby alive, and with information like this, you too could be part of it. So remember, when examining 1971 D pennies, look closely at Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, the date, the mint mark, the edges, and the overall strike. Even small variations could indicate something extraordinary. And while billions of 1971 D pennies are ordinary, just one with the right error could put you in possession of a $400,000 piece of history. The combination of doubling, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, wrong planchet strikes, and strike-throughs create a universe of possibilities that make this coin year endlessly fascinating. Collectors document varieties in reference books, auction records, and grading company population reports, and every new discovery adds to the excitement. So the next time you come across a 1971 D penny, don't dismiss it as just another piece of copper. Take the time to look closely, because the smallest details could be the gateway to something life-changing. And as stories circulate of lucky individuals finding rare errors in their change, it fuels the dream that anyone could be next. After all, the Denver Mint produced billions of these, so the chance is always there that one special coin has ended up in your hands without you even realizing it. So keep hunting, keep inspecting, and keep dreaming, because the 1971 D penny proves that sometimes the most ordinary things can hide the most extraordinary value. And in the world of coin collecting, knowledge is power, patience is key, and luck plays its part. But if you arm yourself with awareness about the errors and mistakes that transform a penny into a $400,000 treasure, then you are already ahead in the game. So go check your coins today, because the next big discovery could be waiting for you right now. Next, 1964 1-cent USA coin. We are going to dive deep into another jaw-dropping story from the world of American coinage, and this time our spotlight shines on the legendary 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. A coin that at first glance might seem like just another old penny from the 1960s, but in reality, under the right circumstances and with the right blend of mint errors and conditions, it can reach a staggering value of up to $700,000. Yes, you've heard that right, a single one. cent coin from 1964 with no mint mark can command the kind of price that changes lives, and the reasons behind this massive valuation lie in the extraordinary errors, the production history, and the quirks of numismatics that collectors obsess over. So let's start from the very beginning and build a complete picture of why this humble copper coin is such a big deal. First, let's set the scene. 1964 was an important year in American coinage history. The nation was on the edge of dramatic changes. In coin compositions, with silver soon being removed from dimes, quarters, and half dollars, and while the Lincoln cent had been struck in a 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin alloys since 1909, the year 1964 represented the tail end of an era where coins were made with true intrinsic metal value. More than that, the Philadelphia Mint struck billions of pennies that year without any mint mark. Which is why collectors know that a no mint mark coin from 1964 comes from Philadelphia, on the surface. These pennies are common. After all, with over 2.6 billion struck, they turn up in circulation frequently. But as any seasoned numismatist knows, it's not the common examples that make history, it's the rare errors and varieties hiding among them that bring the life-changing values. So what makes some of these 1964 no-mint mark pennies worth up to $700,000? Let's go point by point. One of the first and most desirable categories of error to look for is the doubled die obverse or doubled die reverse, where during the hubbing process, when the die is created, a slight shift between impressions causes doubling in the design. On 1964 pennies, some doubled die obverse examples show doubling on the motto "I in God We Trust," the date 1964, and the word liberty. If the doubling is dramatic enough and visible to the naked eye, these coins can command tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands depending on condition. Collectors prize these because the doubling is a clear minting mistake, not damage or wear. Another spectacular error involves repunch dates or misaligned dies, since in the early 1960s die preparation was still prone to hand punching inconsistencies. A repunch date where the numerals, especially the 4 of 1964, appear doubled or shifted can create a variety that collectors pursue intensely. And when you combine that with pristine condition, the value skyrockets. Then we have the famous off-center strikes, a type of error where the planchet is not properly seated in the collar during striking and the design is struck off-center, leaving part of the coin blank. The more dramatic the off-center strike while still showing the full date, the more desirable the coin, and some of the most extreme examples are worth thousands on their own. But when tied to the already significant 1964 no-mint mark rarity, they can break into six figures. Another area to consider is die cracks, die breaks, and cuds. When a die physically breaks during use, parts of the design can become malformed or extra raised metal appears on the coin. Collectors love these dramatic cud errors because each one is unique, essentially like a fingerprint of the minting process, and certain large cuds or dramatic die breaks on 1964 pennies are highly desirable. Let's not forget about clipped planchets, where during the cutting of blank discs from metal sheets, overlapping or misfeeds cause part of the coin to be missing, leaving a distinctive crescent-shaped clip. These errors are always collectible, but in a key year like 1964 they are especially valuable. Strike-through errors also deserve attention, where grease, thread, wire, or other foreign material is caught between the die and the blank during striking, leaving unusual marks or areas of weakness. These can be subtle or extreme, and collectors especially prize the dramatic examples. Another fascinating possibility is transitional or wrong planchet errors. Imagine a 1964 penny accidentally being struck on a planchet meant for a dime or a foreign coin. These wrong planchet errors are ultra rare because they represent one-off mistakes, yet when they occur they can fetch six-figure sums instantly. Now let's talk about condition, because this is absolutely crucial. A circulated 1964 penny, even with an error, will never approach the top values. But when you find a coin preserved in mint state with original red copper luster that has been certified by top grading companies like PCGS or NGC at grades MS65, MS66, or even MS67, the value multiplies dramatically. The best examples in the world are fought over at auction, and when you combine rarity of error with high grade, you have the perfect storm that leads to prices like $700,000, and there are precedents. Rare doubled dies and transitional errors from other years have sold for hundreds of thousands, so it's no surprise that 1964 examples with dramatic errors could reach such breathtaking numbers. Another reason this coin is so significant is its place in history. 1964 was the last year before the U.S. Mint removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters, and there was massive public hoarding of coins. Many 1964 dated coins were saved in rolls and bags, meaning some were preserved in high grade, but ironically this is also what makes true errors from 1964 even rarer, because they were hoarded less frequently and most circulated. So when a dramatic error is discovered in top condition, it becomes a true numismatic miracle. Now imagine this scenario. You're searching through an old coffee can of pennies that your grandparents saved. You pull out a 1964 penny that looks slightly odd. Maybe the date looks doubled, maybe the strike looks off, or maybe there's a visible clip in the metal. You take it to a professional coin dealer. They examine it under magnification and realize you are holding a unique doubled die in mint state red. Suddenly that 1-cent coin that's been sitting unnoticed for decades is worth hundreds of thousands. That is the thrill and the dream of coin collecting, and stories like these happen every year. Auction houses regularly record new price records when rare varieties come to light, and it's important to understand that not all 1964 no-mint mark pennies will be valuable. The vast majority are worth only a cent or a few dollars in high grade, but the handful with extraordinary mistakes are the ones that break the bank. That is why collectors carefully examine every detail of these coins, from the thickness of the lettering to the alignment of the strike. Every possible clue could reveal a hidden treasure. Another interesting factor about 1964 pennies is the sheer variety of repunch dates and mint mark styles cataloged by specialists. Even though Philadelphia coins technically had no mint mark, the date punching itself sometimes created varieties where digits were slightly misaligned. For example, a repunched 4 that appears with a ghost image beneath it, and each cataloged variety adds to the mystique of this year. Moreover, the Lincoln Cent series is the most popular U.S. coin series in the world, with millions of dedicated collectors, which means demand is always there. When supply of a rare variety is only a handful of coins but demand comes from thousands of collectors, prices escalate dramatically. That is why the 1964 no-mint mark penny and error varieties is capable of reaching $700,000. It is not just about rarity but also about passion and competition in the market, the thrill of owning something that almost nobody else has. Another aspect worth noting is how certification plays into this. If you believe you have a valuable 1964 penny, it is critical to have it authenticated and graded. Grading companies encapsulate the coin, certify the error type, and assign it a grade, which then allows it to be traded confidently on the open market. Buyers at auctions are willing to pay massive sums only for certified pieces, so this is an essential step. One more intriguing angle is the fact that 1964 pennies and proof sets sometimes display unique varieties too. Although Philadelphia did not strike circulation coins with a mint mark, proof coins from Philadelphia can show special polishing lines, doubled dies, or strike anomalies, and some of these proof error coins also reach incredible values at auction, which adds another layer of excitement for collectors. Ultimately, what makes the 1964 no-mint mark penny capable of being worth $700,000 is the perfect storm of rarity, condition, demand, and dramatic errors. It is a coin that symbolizes the unpredictable beauty of minting mistakes, the kind of thing no one could plan for but once discovered becomes a legend in the hobby. So whenever you come across a 1964 penny, don't dismiss it as common copper. Look at it closely under magnification. Study the date, the letters, the strike, the edges, and the color, because the smallest detail could reveal a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The reality is that out of billions struck, only a handful of special ones exist. Next, 1970 61-cent USA coin. We take another deep dive into the fascinating and often surprising world of United States coins, and our focus this time is on the 1970 60 Lincoln Memorial 1-cent coin, which under normal circumstances is considered a very common penny that millions of people handle every day without giving it a second thought. But in certain rare cases, this coin has been documented with errors and mistakes so unique and so dramatic that its value skyrockets far beyond its humble face value. In fact, in the right conditions and with the right errors, a 1970 60 penny can be worth up to $400,000, an amount that turns an ordinary cent into a life-changing treasure. Now let's unpack this story piece by piece and build the kind of knowledge that helps you understand not only why this coin can be worth so much but also how you might recognize one of these rare examples if you ever come across it. First, some background. The 1976 penny was struck during the year of the American bicentennial, a time when patriotic pride was sweeping the nation and the mint was producing billions of coins for circulation, though quarters, half dollars, and dollars received special bicentennial designs to celebrate 200 years of independence. The Lincoln cent retained its classic design with Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo. The Denver Mint, marked with the small d mint mark beneath the date, struck more than 4.2 billion of these coins in 1976, so under normal circumstances they are among the most common pennies you could find. However, as with all mass production, errors and anomalies slip through, and these are the coins that collectors chase because they transform something ordinary into something truly extraordinary. One of the most significant categories of errors that can appear on the 1970 60 penny are double die varieties. In these cases, due to a misalignment during the hubbing process when dies are created, parts of the design show clear doubling. This doubling can appear on the inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself, and when dramatic, such doubled dies are instantly recognizable and hugely desirable. Now imagine a 1970 60 penny with a strong doubled die in mint state red condition graded MS65 or higher. Such a coin could reach astronomical prices at auction because it is both rare and visually striking. Another error variety worth discussing is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. During this era, mint marks were still hand-punched into dies, so slight shifts or multiple strikes could result in a mint mark that appears doubled, tripled, or shifted in position. These repunched mint marks are highly collectible and when dramatic can significantly increase the value of a coin. Then we must discuss off-center strikes, which occur when the coin blank is not properly centered in the collar during striking, causing the design to be shifted toward one side leaving part of the blank visible. Off-center strikes are always in demand, but the most valuable examples are those where the date and mint mark remain visible despite the misstrike. For 1970 60 pennies, extreme off-center errors combined with a visible date can reach prices in the tens of thousands. Another type of error that raises value considerably is the clipped planchet error, when a blank disc is punched from the metal sheet. Improperly, it may overlap with another punch, creating a coin with a crescent-shaped missing section. These clipped planchets are instantly recognizable and sought after, especially when dramatic. Cuds and die cracks also play a role in creating valuable 1970 60 penny varieties. When the minting die physically breaks down, pieces of it can leave raised blobs of metal on the coin, often connecting to the rim. Such cut errors are unique to each broken die, making them essentially one of a kind. Collectors love these dramatic cuds, and certain Lincoln cents with large cut errors have sold for thousands. Another very rare possibility is a transitional or wrong planchet error, in which a 1976 penny is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even for a foreign coin, because the U.S. Mint was striking foreign coinage during this period. Such wrong planchet errors are possible and when authenticated can be among the rarest and most valuable coins of all. One authenticated wrong planchet 1976 penny could easily be worth hundreds of thousands depending on its specifics. Strike-through errors also deserve attention, where debris, grease, or foreign objects interfere with the striking process, leaving unusual impressions or missing details on the coin. Some strike-throughs are subtle while others are dramatic and bizarre, adding to their desirability. Now let's talk about condition, because this is one of the biggest factors in whether a coin is worth face value or a fortune. Even the rarest variety or error loses a huge amount of value if it is heavily circulated, scratched, or corroded. But when a 1970 60 penny is preserved in mint state condition with full red luster, the value multiplies dramatically. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC regularly certify such coins, and the highest grade examples of rare errors are the ones that attract record-breaking prices. Imagine an MS-67 red double die obverse 1970 60 penny, authenticated and slabbed, appearing at a major auction. Collectors would fight tooth and nail to win it, and the hammer price could realistically soar into six figures, approaching the $400,000 level for the rarest known varieties. This is not hypothetical, as other Lincoln Cent double dies and transitional errors from nearby years have sold for hundreds of thousands. Another important aspect to understand is why these coins are so rare in the first place. Billions were struck in 1976, so most coins are utterly ordinary. But the minting process is unforgiving and errors often get caught and destroyed before leaving the mint. The few that escape into circulation do so entirely by chance, and many are lost to wear, damage, or indifference. The ones that survive intact and are later recognized for their errors become the legends of numismatics. Let's also remember the cultural context of 1976, because it was the bicentennial year. Coin collectors were paying special attention to coins from this time, meaning that certain unusual varieties were saved and preserved. This increases the chances that a high-grade era coin survived, and it also adds historical significance, as coins from America's 200th anniversary are already symbolic. Combine that with an extraordinary error, and you have a recipe for greatness. Consider for a moment what it means to find one of these coins. Imagine you're searching through a jar of old change, perhaps collected by your parents or grandparents. You spot a 1970 60 penny and at first think nothing of it. Then you notice something unusual. Maybe the date looks doubled, maybe the D-mint mark looks strange, or maybe the design is shifted off-center. You decide to take a closer look with a magnifying glass or loupe, and suddenly you realize you may be looking at a major error variety. You take it to a coin dealer or send it to a grading company, and when it comes back certified as a major double die or off-center strike in mint state red, you learn it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is the thrill of coin collecting, the knowledge that treasures are still out there waiting to be found, hiding in plain sight. The 1970 60 penny valued at up to $400,000 is the perfect example of this. It shows that even in a coin as common as a penny, extraordinary mistakes can transform it into a fortune. The Lincoln Cent series is the most collected coin series in America and possibly the world, with millions of hobbyists and professionals constantly on the lookout for new discoveries. This intense demand combined with the scarcity of true errors explains why values reach such extreme heights. Every year new varieties are discovered and documented, expanding the list of known valuable 1970 60 penny errors. Some are subtle double dies while others are dramatic strike errors, but all share the same underlying principle: rarity plus demand equals value. If you're serious about looking for these coins, knowledge and careful inspection are your best tools. Study reference books, compare known varieties, use magnification, and above all, don't assume any penny is worthless until you've checked it, because the possibility always exists that a seemingly ordinary 1970 60 penny is actually an ultra-rare treasure worth more than a house. Another important detail is certification. Collectors today rely on trusted third-party graders like PCGS, NGC, or Annex to verify authenticity and condition. Raw coins may sell for decent money, but the real record breakers are certified. So if you ever believe you've found one of these rarities, sending it for certification is essential. Ultimately, what makes the 1970 60 penny capable of reaching $400,000 is a perfect storm of factors. It has historical significance from the bicentennial year. It has potential for dramatic mint errors like doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, cuds, and wrong planchet strikes. It has billions of ordinary examples to hide among, making the rare ones even more exciting, and it has a massive base of collectors willing to compete fiercely at auction for the best examples. When all these elements align, the result is a penny that can change your life. Next, 1982 D1 cent USA coin. We move further into the incredible world of Lincoln cents, and this time we shine the spotlight on one of the most fascinating and often misunderstood pennies ever produced, the 1982 D Lincoln 1 cent coin, a coin that at first glance looks like just another brown or red cent that people toss into jars, leave in their cars, or spend without thinking. Yet in certain extraordinary cases this very coin has sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. in fact the right type of 1982 D penny has commanded as much as $300,000 at auction, and the reasons why involve an incredible combination of historical change, minting mistakes, transitional compositions, and collector demand that makes this year stand out like no other in the Lincoln Cent series. So let's begin at the beginning, because to truly understand why a 1982 D penny can be worth such a fortune, we need to look at the background of what was happening at the US Mint in 1982. During that year, the Mint made one of the most important changes in the history of the Lincoln Cent. After decades of producing pennies out of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, the price of copper had risen so high that the intrinsic metal value of a single cent was nearly equal to or greater than its face value. In order to save money, the Mint switched the composition of the penny from copper to a primarily zinc planchet with a thin copper plating. So in 1982, two different types of pennies were being struck: the traditional heavy copper version weighing 3.11 grams and the new zinc version weighing only 2.5 grams. This transition did not happen overnight. Instead, there were overlaps, trials, and mistakes, which makes 1982 one of the most complex years for penny collectors. In fact, there are 7 distinct major varieties of 1982 pennies, including large date and small date styles struck in both copper and zinc compositions at both Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D mint mark, and because so many varieties exist, collectors have to carefully weigh and examine their coins to determine exactly what they have. But what makes the 1982 D penny worth up to $300,000 is the fact that an extremely rare transitional error occurred. A 1982 D small date copper penny, which by all official records should not even exist, was somehow struck at the Denver Mint. It was believed for decades that all 1982 D small date pennies were struck only on the new zinc planchets. Yet a handful of examples in copper were later discovered, creating one of the most legendary transitional errors in U.S. coinage. One of these coins, certified by PCGS and high grade, sold for more than $18,000 many years ago. But experts agree that in gem mint red condition with full luster and no flaws, such a coin could easily command 6 figures and potentially $300,000 or more. The logic behind this value is simple: the coin should not exist at all, yet a few were accidentally struck and released into circulation, making them incredibly rare. When collectors realize the population is likely only a few dozen at most, and demand comes from thousands of Lincoln Cent enthusiasts worldwide, the result is explosive prices. But transitional composition errors are not the only factor that can make a 1982 D penny so valuable. Let's dive deeper into all the potential error types and varieties that matter. First, there is the small date versus large date distinction. In 1982, the font of the numerals in the date was changed slightly, creating 2 styles. The small date has a more delicate 2, with a sharper curve, and the 8 is more balanced in height, while the large date appears thicker and more blunt. For copper coins, the small date is rarer, and when paired with the D mint mark in copper composition, it becomes the famous $300,000 rarity. But even other combinations of small date copper or zinc can be worth premiums. Next are doubled dies, where during die production, slight shifts create doubled images on the lettering or date. Some 1982 pennies, including 1982 D examples, show doubling on Liberty, or I in God We Trust, and dramatic examples in high grade can bring thousands. Then we consider off-center strikes. If the blank was not properly centered during striking, part of the design is shifted, leaving blank space. The most valuable of these errors still shows the date and mint mark while being significantly off-center, and such examples can bring several thousand. Another class of errors includes repunched mint marks, RPMs, though by 1989 mint marks were being punched into dies during the hubbing process. In 1982 they were still punched by hand, which means slight misplacements could occur, resulting in doubled or tripled mint marks on the coin. RPMs are highly collectible, especially when dramatic and clear. Then we must talk about clipped planchets, where the blank is cut improperly from the sheet of metal, leaving a crescent-shaped gap. These are easy to spot, and when combined with the transitional year of 1982, they are even more desirable. Die cracks and cuds also occur frequently on Lincoln Cents, as dies wear and eventually break, producing raised lines or blobs of metal on the coins. The bigger and more dramatic these errors, the more collectors want them. Another extremely rare possibility is a wrong planchet strike. Imagine a 1982 penny accidentally struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin blank. Since the US Mint was producing foreign coins during this era, these errors are possible and some have been documented. Such wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in the entire hobby, often reaching into the six-figure range. So what makes the 1982 copper small date penny so mythical is the fact that it represents both a wrong composition and an unintended variety. Essentially, it is the coin that was not supposed to exist yet somehow slipped through quality control and entered circulation. This is the definition of a numismatic miracle, and because so few are known, every discovery is front-page news in the coin community. Let's talk about how you can tell if you have one. First, you need to check the date style to see if it is small date or large date. Then you need to weigh the coin. If it weighs 3.11 grams, it is copper. If it weighs 2.5 grams, it is zinc. A 1982 small date weighing 3.11 grams is the holy grail, worth up to $300,000, whereas a 1982 small date zinc is common, and a 1982 large date copper is relatively common. Condition is the next factor. Even a circulated example could be worth thousands, but a mint state red example certified at MS65 or higher by PCGS or NGC would explode in value, possibly approaching the $300,000 level. Let's also not forget strike-through errors where grease or foreign objects interfere with the design. These can be dramatic and highly collectible, especially when they affect the date or mint mark. Now, think about the possibilities. Billions of 1982 pennies were struck, yet hidden among them are only a handful of small date copper varieties. Imagine the odds of finding one, yet people have, and that means others may still be out there, sitting in jars, drawers, or coin rolls waiting to be discovered. The excitement of coin roll hunting is fueled by exactly this kind of possibility. And that is why collectors worldwide hunt 1982 pennies so obsessively. When one coin can change your financial life, it is worth the effort. So remember to always weigh your 1982 pennies, always check the date style, and always inspect for errors, because knowledge is the key to unlocking hidden treasures. And in the case of the 1982 penny, that knowledge could be worth $300,000. The Lincoln Cent series is filled with amazing stories, but few are as thrilling as this one, because it combines history, rarity, error collecting, and the thrill of the hunt into one powerful example. The 1982 small date copper penny has become a legend, a modern rarity comparable to the great error coins of the past, and it proves once again that the smallest details matter. So the next time you hold a penny from 1982, don't toss it aside. Take a close look, weigh it, study it, and remember that one tiny cent could hold a massive fortune, turning pocket change into history, and maybe even into life-changing money. Next, 1981 cent USA coin. We journey further into the fascinating world of rare Lincoln cents, and now we are stepping into the year 1980, a year that at first glance seems ordinary in the penny world, but in truth hides some of the most exciting possibilities that can turn an everyday coin into a life-changing fortune. In fact, certain extremely rare 1980 no-mint mark 1 cent coins from Philadelphia, carrying extraordinary minting mistakes and unique attributes, have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, with the rarest and most spectacular examples reaching values up to $400,000. And to understand why such a coin can be worth so much, we must dive deep into the historical, technical, and numismatic background of the 1980 penny, the minting process, the transition of styles, the potential for errors, and the insatiable collector demand that drives such incredible prices. So let's start with the basics. The 1980 penny belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, a design introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replacing the wheat reverse, and featuring Frank Isparo's depiction of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, while the obverse still carried Victor David Brenner's classic portrait of Lincoln, first used in 1909. By 1980, the penny was still being struck primarily in the long-standing bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, weighing 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters. The Philadelphia Mint in 1980 struck billions of coins, and as was customary at the time, Philadelphia issues carried no mint mark, hence all 1980 pennies without a mint mark came from the Philadelphia Mint. Now you may ask, if billions were struck, how can one possibly be worth $400,000? The answer lies in rare error types, striking anomalies, die varieties, and unique transitional issues that collectors prize so highly. The 1980 penny is a classic example of a coin that hides immense value in a sea of common pieces, because while the vast majority are worth face value or just a few cents in circulated grades, a handful of dramatic rarities exist that elevate the coin into six-figure territory. One of the most famous categories involves doubled dies, where the design elements were accidentally doubled during the die-making process, creating coins where the lettering, numbers, or even Lincoln's portrait appear doubled under magnification, doubled die obverse showing dramatic doubling. On the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust are highly sought after, and a strong bold example in mint state red condition could fetch tens of thousands of dollars, with the very finest known specimens hypothetically stretching toward that $400,000 figure, because collectors fight over uniqueness. Another important area of value lies in off-metal errors. In 1980 the mint was still striking some coins for foreign nations, and on rare occasions planchets meant for other denominations or even foreign coins were fed into the presses by mistake. If a 1980 penny was struck on a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, or even a foreign blank, the resulting wrong planchet error could command six-figure sums, particularly if certified by PCGS or NGC in top condition. Another class of dramatic rarities are off-center strikes, where the planchet is not properly aligned, producing a coin with part of the design missing. If the off-center is extreme yet still shows the full date, such pieces can easily fetch thousands and sometimes tens of thousands, but in the rarest circumstances when paired with other errors such as double strikes, the value can skyrocket into hundreds of thousands. Now let's not overlook transitional composition errors. While the official composition change from copper to zinc happened in 1982, there have been discoveries of experimental planchets and misstock blanks surfacing in years before and after, meaning a 1980 penny struck on an unusual alloy planchet could exist. Imagine a 1980 no mint mark cent mistakenly struck on a pure zinc blank or even on an experimental copper-plated zinc blank before its official release. Such a coin would be one of a kind, a transitional anomaly worth hundreds of thousands. Also highly prized are proof-like errors and high-grade examples, while Philadelphia was not striking proofs in 1980. Occasionally business strike coins come off the dies looking unusually sharp, fully struck, and deeply mirrored, creating proof-like appearances. Collectors will pay extraordinary premiums for coins that look unlike anything else from that year, and if paired with an error, the price explodes. Another fascinating error type is the broad strike, where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out larger than normal with missing or distorted rims. Dramatic broad strikes can be worth thousands, particularly if combined with full details, and again, if paired with other rarities, can push into six figures. Repunched dates and repunched mint marks are also of interest. Though in 1980 mint marks were not yet added to Philadelphia coins, the date itself could be affected by hub doubling or mishubbing, creating collectible varieties. Let's also consider strike-through errors where a piece of grease, cloth, or other debris gets between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving a ghostly impression or even missing design elements. Dramatic strike-throughs, especially across Lincoln's face or the date, are highly collectible. Then there are die cracks, cuds, and die breaks. Coins struck from deteriorating dies often show raised lines or missing chunks of design, and while minor ones are common, dramatic cuds that obliterate parts of the rim and letters can be worth hundreds or thousands. But the true legendary 1980 no mint mark penny that could be worth $400,000 would have to combine one of these major error classes with extreme rarity, exceptional eye appeal, and the highest grade possible. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have proven time and again that when two or more collectors compete for a unique coin, the price can soar far beyond expectations. It only takes two determined bidders to turn a $50,000 rarity into a $400,000 legend, and this has happened repeatedly in numismatic history. Consider the 1943 copper penny. Another transitional error that should not exist yet does, commanding over $1.7 million, or the 1955 double die cent. That in perfect condition is worth six figures. The 1980 no-mint mark penny joins this tradition as a sleeper rarity, a coin that in the right circumstances could turn a casual collector into an overnight millionaire. What makes it even more exciting is that billions were struck, meaning the odds are slim but non-zero that such treasures still hide in circulation, coin jars, or old collections, waiting for someone sharp-eyed and persistent enough to discover them. Imagine pulling a $400,000 penny out of a bankroll. The thrill is what drives so many collectors to search tirelessly. So how do you know if you have one? First, check the weight. If it is far off the standard 3.11 grams, you may have a wrong planchet error. Next, inspect the date and lettering under magnification for doubling. Then examine the strike quality and look for unusual shapes, off-centering, or missing details. And of course, always consider professional grading. Sending a coin to PCGS or NGC can confirm authenticity and maximize value. The grading scale also plays a huge role. A coin graded MS67 or MS68 red can be exponentially more valuable than the same coin in MS64. Rarity plus condition equals price, and when demand meets supply, astronomical results happen. So the 1980 no-mint mark penny, which in everyday cases is just a cent, in rare circumstances transforms into a $400,000 prize, a testament to how history, minting technology, collector passion, and a little bit of luck converge to create numismatic legends. And for every collector listening or watching this, the message is simple: check every coin, leave no penny unturned, because the treasure you seek may already be in your pocket, quietly waiting to change your life.